Anyone working on G20 right now, I feel like you'll be stressed, and we can see why. But good luck for the summit. But in so many industries, right? The media, look at healthcare. When you talk about chronic stress, what do you mean exactly, and how do we identify it?
I think the understanding of chronic stress needs to be about how that stress is so pervasive that despite all efforts, all attempts to try and ameliorate it, nothing seems to work. The issue is not the presence of a stressor because, in most circumstances, people are able to find some way of working around that stress. You're able to manage yourself, your emotions, your actions in a reasonable manner, and you're able to keep on moving past it. But there are certain stressors which just become these big big boulders in our way which are just immovable. So it's like you feel in those situations that regardless of whatever I'm trying to do, it's almost like pushing against a wall and nothing really moves or budges. And when you find yourself in that kind of a circumstance where that stressor, despite all your attempts, all your efforts, is continuing to be present, no strategy, no way of trying to work on it seems to be giving you the desired results, that's where it starts creating a lot of problems, and that's where we start looking at it as something which is being chronic. And the issue with the chronicity of stressors is that it's going to start impacting you in multiple different ways because your mind and your body are unable to cope effectively with the chronic stressors. The body keeps getting depleted. The body's physiological response to managing the presence of the stressor can get compromised. As a result, you may have multiple physical health related issues. People can develop aches and pains and different immune system based responses which may make physical health compromised. People can also start finding that it tends to impact their moods, their levels of thinking. They may feel extremely worried, extremely irritable, angry, reacting more, not being able to necessarily hold on to their own emotional stability to be able to manage or navigate situations. And what it's also doing is somewhere you start feeling that as an individual, somewhere you are getting affected by things, by situations. You are not necessarily the same person the way you were, say, till the time that kind of a chronic stressor was not present. So you start feeling differently in a way. And again, the problem with chronic stressors is that while we may think that, oh, stress is going to be a part of life and it's okay that it's going to be present for a long duration of time, we need to understand that stressors would also keep on varying for us. Typically, if they are not varying and it's the same thing which is present, you will also keep feeling stuck, and you will also feel incompetent or incapable of being able to manage it. That starts impacting your sense of self. That is not a pleasant experience at all because you start questioning your skills, your abilities, who you are as a person, who you are as a working person. And the impact that it then has overall on you as an individual and as a professional tends to be far deeper. And that's a concern with chronic stressors. So it becomes very important to try and identify whether this is becoming a chronic stressor for me, and if it is, and if I am not being able to work through it, can I communicate, share, discuss with someone else who can help me figure a way around it or out of it? Or how do I bring in a way of being able to accept the situation for what it is? Because there will be situations which cannot be resolved as well. Everything may not always be 100% resolvable. So, how do I bring in that acceptance and learn to work in parallel, focusing on other aspects of my life so that this does not become the only thing where my energies are getting focused? So, both things become very critically important then in that context.
That's really interesting. And Kamna, I didn't realize, when you say that it can actually change who you are as a person, that's actually a huge red flag as well. And I'm going to ask you a little bit, further on in the conversation about how do we recognize these signs as peers, allies, colleagues, and loved ones.